Today I'm going to be talking about color as it pertains to doing acrylic painting. So you can get any types of paint that you like. I prefer two, so you're really paying for what you get. You can buy the more general school brands, but there's a lot of different companies out there that produce their own paints that are just as good. So depending on your price range and what type of acrylic paints you want to be working with, you just need a few different colors. I highly recommend getting these types of palettes. They're only a couple of bucks. You can get them at most different art supply stores. They come with these nice little lids. That being said, I would also stick them in a Ziploc bag to make sure that your paints don't dry out or spill or anything like that. So most people at some time have gone through the color wheel, but I'm going to take it, do the color wheel and then take it one step further, hopefully. So first off, there are three primary colors. Now you can see videos where they say that there are ways to make primary colors. The basic school of thought is that red, yellow, and blue cannot be made by mixing colors. Well, there are situations where you can mix colors and make red, yellow, and blue. But for our immediate purposes, we're going to consider those primary colors, and the term primary is because they are prime. They cannot be broken apart or made to make the colors, but there is cyan and magenta and yellow that you can mix together to make some of these colors. So the three primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. So I've mocked up this kind of chart, this color wheel, to kind of show you how these different things go. I typically in my classroom only carry the primary colors. I don't get green or orange or purple. I let the kids mix these, but I get three different colors of primary, and that allows us to do a very large amount of colors. So orange, which is the combination of red and yellow, green, which is the combination of yellow and blue, and then purple, which is the combination of red and blue. Sometimes this is called violet. It's the same color. Oftentimes people are like, what's the difference between purple and violet? It's synonymous. It's the same thing. So the next layer of colors are called tertiary colors. Tertiaries take a primary and a secondary color and they mix them together. So the tertiary colors are red orange and yellow orange, red purple or blue purple, yellow green or blue green. In all of these, the proper way to label a tertiary color is by labeling the primary color first and the secondary color second. Reason being is orange already has red and yellow in it. So you're showing which one is predominant, which is the dominant color. So if you take orange and add too much red, you're gonna get red orange. If you make orange and add too much yellow, you're gonna get yellow orange, and so on. So typically when you label these things, they are typically labeled with the primary first and the secondary second, but you can find different crayons and colored pencils that will say the opposite, which really, if you think about it, doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's how it is. So I've got these three secondary colors already made. I've got my purple, my orange, and my green. So I'm going to make tertiary colors now. So I'm going to take a little bit of this and add too much red. on the colors that you use, the different hues, and I've used that word before. The hues are how our human eyes interpret the wavelength of reflected light. Now, it's funny to think about color because we see the color and we call it what it is. But what our eyes see is actually the absence of that color. So light reflects. If light does not reflect off of something, we can't see it. So think about being in the dark. If it's pitch black and there's no light in there, there's nothing, no light being reflected off of any of the objects in that pitch black room. So we can't see anything. So ultimately, the way that we see is the reflection of light off of things. Now, what we see as color is the light being reflected back at us. So right here we see red. So light is reflecting off of that, but this red hue is absorbing the color red, and all the other colors are being reflected back at us. So really, when we see color, we see all but the color that's being reflected. And so what we interpret as a color is all the colors minus that color. So this is red, but what I'm seeing is all colors being reflected back, and my brain is telling me red is not there, therefore this is red, which is a really weird way to think about it, but it's how our eyes work. So these are only a few of the colors that we can make. If we continue to blend these colors with each other, we're going to get a lot more colors. So one more term before I show you the last project is saturation. Saturation is the intensity of the reflected light. So if we take any of these colors and we add like a matte medium, which is basically just clear acrylic, and acrylic is just plastic in general. So it's just a clear plastic binder. That's what all these different colors are made in. The acrylic is plastic. So if there's too much binder, if there's too much acrylic, if there's too much clear stuff or water, the intensity goes down. It gets kind of see-through, or it's not as vibrant. So saturation is how much pigment is in a binder. So, like I mentioned before, you can take these colors and you can combine them with each other and go in the regular quintessential color wheel. But if you really want to see what colors can do, I often have my students do like a multiplication table. So this is an example of a finished one. So you can see on here that they labeled all the colors here, and this is straight out of the bottle. They didn't mix it at all. And then they did it in the same order going this way. And then they did it like a multiplication table where this times this equals this, this times this equals this. So anytime you mix it with itself, it's going to be the same color. So this whole diagonal is the same color as straight out of the bottle. So here's fluorescent true red, here's fluorescent true red. If you meet them in the middle, you've got fluorescent true red. But all these other shades, all these other hues, excuse me, are combinations of these colors. So you can see all of these have this color in it, but it's also mixed with all these colors to show you how they can change and what colors they can be. So as one of the projects that I do with my students is they take all the colors and then they make this multiplication table type thing with their paints. They label all the colors on the top in order, and then they use that same order going this way. And it doesn't really matter which order that you go in, as long as this order is the same as this order, so that when you paint them and make this, you have a coinciding, and it's easier to find really, set of colors that you are going to paint in. So each color straight out of the bottle, you're going to use 3 times. Once on each edge and once where they intersect. Then all the rest of the colors are going to be combinations of those colors. So this is the introduction to paint mixing and colors. One color that I'm going to go over specifically because is how to make brown. And essentially brown is just made up by mixing all 3 primary colors pretty much equally. But my students and I have found that if you make purple and then add yellow, that seems to give you the best ratios. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue, I'm going to take a little bit of red, I'm going to mix that together so I have a purple first. So I've got a purple. Now I'm going to take yellow and add yellow to that. And that typically will give you, if you do it right, a good example of what brown is. And you can just play around with this until you get the shade that, or the hue that you would like. But essentially, making purple and adding yellow will get you brown. Do more, do better.